The Sakharov Prize stands as a symbol of the values that underpin our very own union, the respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. The prize honors the brave men and women who, at great personal risk, champion human rights, democracy and freedom across the globe through their inspiring actions. At the same time, our recognition of such bravery stands as a stark reminder of the relentless attacks on fundamental values across the globe, suffering and injustice. In these challenging times, defending human rights, fundamental freedoms and democracy is not just essential, it is urgent. The fight to uphold these principles demands our immediate and unwavering commitment. Today, we will learn about the candidates proposed by the political groups and the groups of members. 8 admissible nominations have been received for this year's Sakharov Prize. You have received short biographies of all nominees. I will now give the floor to David McAllister to guide us through the presentation of nominees.
Thank you very much, dear Hildegard, for opening the session and for your introductory statement. I would first of all like to echo the words of Hildegard Bentele that the Sakharov Prize is a powerful testament to Parliament's strong commitment to standing up for human rights and freedom of thought around the world. And colleagues, I don't have to mention in front of you that in the light of the growing threats and undermining of democratic values around the world, this prize holds such great symbolic significance, and it serves as a concrete demonstration of our support to people who uphold the fundamental values of the European Union, often at the cost of their own freedom, safety, and sadly, even life. So we can now proceed with the presentations of this year's Sakharov Prize nominees. This will be, as per standard practice in our committees, done in alphabetical order. Each presentation, dear colleagues, is for a maximum of 5 minutes. In some cases, the speaking time is split among several members and/or a video. So let us now begin with the first nominee. The first nominee is Mzia Amaglobeli and Georgia's pro-democracy protest movement, nominated by Raza Gnugnevičiene and 60 other MEPs. I now pass the floor to Raza Gnugnevičiene for 5 minutes max, including a video. First the video. Is there any technician following the meeting, listening to my words? This video is wonderful, but with sound, the video would create a slightly better understanding. Hello? Isn't there somebody up there?
Now we see the screen.
A czy to nie ma głosowania na plenarce? Czy to się decyzja jest? A, okej.
But is there somebody working on the... Yeah, there is.
They are trying. Sollen wir mit dem anderen beginnen? Oder ist das doof?
So, dear colleagues, we were just wondering, as long as we still have this technical issue and not to lose so much time, would you agree that in the meantime we ask the second nominee to be presented? I understand that this presentation will be without a video. So a clear advantage for the second nominee.
It's okay. Raza says yes. Okay.
Raza,
Fine for you.
we'll get back to you. Right. So the second nominee is Budapest Pride, nominated by the Greens EFA group and our colleagues Mark Andrzej, Kim van Sparentak and 43 other MEPs. I would now like to give the floor to our colleagues Kim van Sparentak and Mark Andrzej for 2.5 minutes each. Okay? Where is Kim? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Union states that the Union is founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to minorities. The Charter of Fundamental Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and to freedom of association at all levels. The organization my group wants to nominate has for years been at the forefront of protecting these rights within the European Union, organizing a peaceful assembly every year to ask for equal rights for their community, despite their government making it extremely hard through bullying and illegitimate bans. Budapest Pride stood strong. Together with important partners such as HATER, the Helsinki Committee, and an inspiring mayor, and many of us, Budapest Pride defied Hungary's pride ban, uniting 350,000 people in the largest human rights demonstration in the nation's history, a moment that went all over the world. We rallied for freedom of assembly and freedom of expression for all. When the Hungarian Prime Minister announced his Putin-style pride ban, the organizers of Budapest Pride created a strong opposition to the censorship of freedom of assembly. They tenfolded the usual attendance number. They created the 7th largest pride march in Europe under the threat of police harassment, financial fines and jail time to stand up for the fundamental right to peaceful protest. We are talking about a brave group of people in Europe that are fighting for all of us, that right now don't know if they will face a financial fine or perhaps jail time. And we all know that we need to protect the brave people that are standing up for our rights. The mayor of Budapest described the support they got from the European Union as a lack of bravery. They said if we were only as brave as the European Union, there would be no pride. And that's why I think it's very important that as a European Parliament, we send a signal, because Budapest Pride was braver. They defended our freedom. They're fighting a fight for all Europeans, preserving the fundamental right to the freedom of assembly and to be and love who you are. This is a courageous act that should be rewarded. And for that, I'm proud to nominate Budapest Pride for the Sakharov Prize. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. van Sparentak. And now, Mark Angel, bitte.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Dear colleagues, as co-chair of the LGBTI Intergroup of the European Parliament, I'm also honoured to present the nomination of Budapest Pride for the 2025 Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought. This is a candidacy that unites many of us across the political spectrum from left to right, because it speaks not only to minority rights, but to the very core of our European values. Budapest Pride was founded in 1997, has stood for nearly 3 decades as one of the most courageous defenders of human rights and democracy in Central and Eastern Europe. In 2025, the Hungarian government went so far as to vote legislation to ban Pride, to criminalize Pride organizers and sanction participants with high fines, and also impose AI facial recognition measures designated to silence citizens. Faced with these unprecedented restrictions, the organizers of Budapest Pride, supported by the city of Budapest, chose courage over fear. They redefined their march as a civic freedom day, preserving the right to peaceful assembly and giving new meaning to the struggle for freedom of expression, equality and democracy. On June 28th, over 300,000 people gathered in Budapest, citizens, families, activists, members of this parliament, diplomats, allies standing together in dignity and defiance. It was the largest civic mobilization in recent history in Hungary. Beyond visibility for LGBTI plus rights, it became a national act of resistance against authoritarianism, resonating across Europe and inspiring solidarity worldwide. Budapest Pride's achievement goes far beyond the defense of one community. It embodies the universal value of our union, human dignity, freedom of thought, the rule of law and equality. And through extraordinary courage and resilience, these organizers have shown that civil society can resist oppression peacefully but powerfully and keep democracy alive even under systemic attack. For all these reasons, Budapest Prize represents exactly what the Sakharov Prize was created to honor. The defense of freedom in the face of autocracy, the affirmation of human dignity against injustice, and the unshakable belief that democratic values can and must prevail. This is why, with support that spans this parliament, I urge you to stand with Budapest Prize. And I'm standing with Budapest Prize. We stand with other Pride organizers in other regions, such as the Page Pride, which is supposed to take place on October 4th, which is also banned. Thank you very much.
Colleagues from Sparentech and Andrzej, thank you very much for your presentation. I understand that we still don't have a sound connection. Okay, then we move on to the third nomination. The third nominee is journalists and humanitarian aid workers in conflict zones, represented by the Palestinian Press Association, the Palestine Red Crescent Society, and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, and they have been nominated by the S&D Group. And I'm happy to pass the floor now to our Vice Chair, Hanna Yalul Muru, for 5 minutes. Please, Hanna.
Thank you very much indeed. And I want to address our respect and for the rest of the nominations. And you know, the Sakharov Prize is the highest recognition awarded by the European Union for the defense of human rights. Every year, we honor individuals, groups, and organizations who fight for freedom of expression, minority rights, respect for international law, democracy, and the rule of law. With our choice, we have both a great mission and great responsibility to send a clear message to the world. We did so in 2011 by supporting Tunisians, during the Arab Spring 2020 by backing the democratic opposition in Belarus against Lukashenko's authoritarianism, 2022 with the Ukrainian people after the Russian invasion, and 2023 by recognizing Masha Amini as a symbol of resistance against oppression and misogyny in Iran. We stood at the right moment, supporting those who need it most. For that reason, this year the S&D Group believes that although many of the nominees are worthy of the prize, we must focus on efforts on supporting humanitarian workers and journalists who are left defenseless and brutally targeted in conflict zones. Most strikingly in Palestine, where they are being silenced, persecuted, and even killed while simply carrying out their essential work. Our proposal comes at a time when any action seems insufficient in the face of an unprecedented situation in which international law, international humanitarian law, and the right to information are under serious threat. Since October 7, more than 65,000 people have been killed in Gaza, among them almost 5,000 children, 21,000 have acquired some form of disability. There are also 2 million displaced people, and for the first time in the Middle East, famine has been officially declared in Gaza. Everything we know is thanks to the journalists still working in the region, and the harm that is preventing each day is thanks to the humanitarian workers. However, since the start of the war in Gaza, they have been systematically targeted. At least 245 journalists and media workers have been killed, several have been injured, and others remain missing. In recent months, many of the Gazans' most prominent media figures were killed, most of them young professionals such as war documentarian Fatima Hassouna, 11 years old influencer Yaki Mohammed, and Al Jazeera correspondent Anas Al-Sharif. I want to stress that international press access to the Gaza Strip is prohibited, and telecommunications services have been attacked to maintain silence. Many of these journalists were part of the Palestinian Journalist Syndicate, which we propose to recognize. Also, 2024 was the deadliest year even recorded for aid personnel, with 500 killed worldwide, including 181 in Gaza alone. Most of them local staff from the Palestinian Red Crescent Society and UNRWA. These organizations have sustained life amidst the siege, providing emergency care, food, water, and shelter to millions of victims. But they are not just numbers. Our proposal represents hundreds of people who have been attacked simply for doing their jobs. People who help every day in the most hostile areas of the world, assisting those most in need and risking their lives to keep the rest of the world informed. This proposal recognizes the importance of humanitarian workers and journalists worldwide, while also encompassing some of the nominees put forward by other political groups. We encourage here, to also to include this also. It's speaking about human rights in general and activists, not only, journalists, but all what it encompasses, this award. It highlights the exceptional and catastrophic situation they face in Palestine, a place where international law has collapsed and where values we stand for are being trampled. I invite my colleagues to reflect on this unique moment and to use their power to support this recognition for the thousands of victims who will forever be part of one of the darkest chapters in our history. So what I can only think is that we should stand with international law. Generations are suffering from the constant attack of our principles, and this is a way of feeling with them and to tell them that we do really care. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. May I ask the next speakers to slow down? On behalf of our interpreters, I've got a...
I am sorry, and I speak too quick, sorry.
The message may be lost if we speak too quickly, but I think Hannah got her message across very well. Now, I have heard that our technicians have perhaps found a solution. A video with tone. That is something new. No. Okay, well, we're still working on the role of the European Union as a technology superpower. So in the meantime, the fourth nominee is, colleagues, journalists in Palestine. And the names are, and I'll try to read them out correctly, Hamza Anwel Al-Dadou, Plestia Al-Akwat, Shireen Abu Akleh, Ain Media, and in honor of Yasser Murtaja and Roshdi Sarraj. And they have all been nominated by the left. I now give the floor to our colleague Danilo Della Valle for 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Grazie, Presidente. Giornalisti palestinesi.
Thank you, President. The Palestinian journalists have shown the world that genocide on the part of the Israeli army, they have been assassinated by the Israeli government. That is why we in the left have proposed them as candidates. This was already put forward last year. But journalists and media activists are being killed in any possible way, in their offices, in their homes, together with their families, in the refugee camps, all as we've been seeing as they were working in front of a hospital. They were shot. 220 journalists and other types of reporters have been killed since 2023. This is the highest number ever registered in a conflict. Much higher number of journalists have been injured. They've been physically threatened, and the Israeli army has actually killed many of their family members. This happens every day in Gaza. the journalists risk their lives to show the world the reality of what is happening, and we should be grateful for the work that they do, and we should honor the memory of those that have been killed when they were doing their jobs, and to support those that are still working in Palestine. Symbolic names which could represent their struggle. And this particular Shireen Asher Muftaya, who was also killed by the IDF during the major march convened by civil society. This massacre, this story, started before the 7th of October and has happened. Hamza Wael Al-Dalub and Alakat Shirin Boukleh and Yasser Muftaya and Rosir Muftaya are Palestinian journalists. The right to tell the truth does not mean that you need to pay such a huge price. We support this because the truth cannot be silenced. We must remember, we must know what is happening in Gaza and to the Palestinian people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Della Valle. We come to the fifth nominee, or they also have a video. That's the challenge. So the fifth nominee also has a video. The sixth nominee also has a video. But the seventh...
Georgia's first woman journalist, recognized as a prisoner of conscience. November 28, 2020. Weeks after rigged elections, Georgian Dreams Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze announces that Georgia will freeze its...
First we see the pictures and then we do the sound afterwards. We do it in steps.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Face it.
Yeah.
We close our eyes.
First, and then
we close our eyes. We close our ears.
Well, in the meantime, we'll give the technicians a few more minutes. We only have one more nomination without a video, so you better get cracking. The seventh nominee... The seventh nominee is Boulam Sansal, nominated by the Patriots. Allow me to note that there are some contrasting statements in the media on Mr. Sansal's nomination. The Secretariat inquired with Mr. Sansal's lawyer, who has confirmed that Mr. Sansal does not accept this nomination. I need to inform you about this. And now I give the floor to Mr. Mariani.
Oui, excusez-moi, selon mes informations.
Yes, according to my information, actually it's his editor who said this, but on behalf of our group, Patriots for Europe, we would like to draw your attention of the Franco-Algerian writer Boulam Sansal for the Sakharov Prize 2025. Boulam Sansal is not an ordinary author. He is spoken on behalf of freedom and has risked his life to defend human dignity and truth. His novels, his public speeches have always called for the same thing: to refuse to accept extremism, to fight Islamic ideology, and to support a secular society as a column for a free society. Now, we're in a country where the suppression of opinion has been used as a weapon. He has never been silenced. In Algeria, the voice is expressed, and in Algeria, if you wanted to have freedom, well, this doesn't exist in Algeria. It is only insults that persist. His books, his novels have been translated as a piece of resistance to any type of ideological oppression for decades. He is one of the very rare voices in the Arab world that says that Islamism is a mortal threat for freedom, and that democracy is not going to survive in the face of fanaticism. So in the light of the Algerian regime 2024, Boulem Sansal wasn't just detained, he is a hostage by a power which doubts the powers. He does not believe in the truth of words, and who tries to suppress. By attacking Sansal, it is pointing a finger at all of society. Nobody is allowed to speak. You cannot contest religion instrumentalized to reign. The Sakharov Prize colleague has always wanted to support men and women who resist authoritarian regimes, who defend freedom of expression, human rights in the most hostile context. Boulem Sansal is clearly an example of this, better than anyone else. His existence has been there to support freedom of expression, tolerance, secularism, and this is what he's paying for today. Giving this prize to him would be a clear signal to the Algerian authorities. We cannot be intimidated. We cannot be submitted to the arbitrary power of the Algerian government. Europe does not resign to creating a triumph over Islamism, but we need to support those who within are prepared to fight this. Yes, we are courageous. We are in favor of those who defend freedom rather than political complacency. We appoint Boulem Sansal and we pay tribute to an author, to a writer, but we also criticize a government which takes its own citizens hostage. We believe that thinking can be a weapon against fanaticism and tyranny. We need to be faithful to our vocation. We need to support freedom, and we will certainly not have those voices silenced, especially the voices of conscience. So we believe that this particular person needs to be supported. He's in prison. He's been imprisoned by the Algerian regime, but his combat, his struggle still resonates, and we need to make sure that we are never strangled. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Monsieur Mariani. Look, we'll have an exchange of views on all the presentations afterwards. I would like to first of all challenge or master the challenge of presenting a video with tone. How are things? The chairman is still in a very good mood. So far. I can't guarantee you that this will continue.
We can do the 8th, Chairman. We can do the 8th without the video, and then we will do it.
Okay. So we can move on to the 8th nominee, which also has a video, but only a short video. So I'm asking Helmut Brandstetter and Irena Joveva if they would be ready. See, why should they? So I'm in a difficult situation that our first nominee and all the others have videos.
Let's have a cigarette break.
It worked before the meeting. So,
Can read the text during the video. Genau, we can have the sound at least.
But I'm not sure if the others had enough as well for their presentation.
Zia Amaroveli, Georgia's first woman journalist. journalist recognized as a prisoner of conscience. November 28, 2024. Weeks after rigged elections, Georgian Dream's Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze announces that Georgia will freeze its EU bid until the end of 2028. The statement shocks the nation. Protests rise in Tbilisi and across the country. The regime answers with force. Police attack protesters and journalists. Many are injured, some tortured. None of the cases are investigated. Dozens of citizens, students, doctors, actors, comedians are jailed on fabricated charges. January 12, 2025. Zia Maglobeli, journalist and the founder of two most respected Georgian media outlets, is unlawfully jailed. She becomes a victim of inhuman treatment, endures 38 days long hunger strike, loses most of her eyesight in detention. Yet, she refuses to repent or confess to a crime she had not committed in exchange for freedom. Through her courage and sacrifice, Zia Maglobeli becomes a symbol of Georgia's fight for freedom and for its European future. Fight before it's too late. Freedom is more valuable than life itself. Her call is now the heartbeat of the moment, echoed by the Georgian people, standing on the streets for over 300 days. Her defiance is clear. Released or not, I will keep fighting for press freedom and Georgia's European future. If that is a crime, then perhaps you need to keep me behind the bars.
I now give the floor to our colleague Raza Gunevicena, please.
Thank you. Journalists fighting for freedom become symbols of true European values. This is what the Sakharov Prize is all about. The candidacy of Zia Maglobeli and the Georgian people was proposed in all 5 main political groups, from the Greens to the ECR. This means that all of them have supporting members. 66 members co-signed our nomination in only under 2 days. It will soon be a year since Georgians are fighting in the streets for the European future with EU flags in their hands. They are fighting the same fight as Ukrainians. As another candidate, Andrzej Poczobut, in Lukashenko prison, they are fighting against the same colonial imperialist evil, which also threatens the rest of the European continent. Our proposal is a signal to the entire South Caucasus region, which has not yet had a Sakharov Prize laureate. This proposal is important for the entire Black Sea region. For us in Europe, the development of democracy in this region is vital. Sakharov Prize for Zia Maglobeli and the Georgia's pro-democracy protest movement would be more than just a symbolic award. For a country like Georgia, it can make a real difference. For us here in the European Union, it can serve as a much-needed push to finally do more to defend what they and we stand for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Raza. We can now move on to the 5th nomination, and that is Charlie Kirk, nominated by the ESN Group, and I would like to pass the floor to our colleague, Mr. Jongen, please.
Thank you, Chair. Could you please show the video first?
With tone?
Need a new budget for IT technologies in the rooms.
Raza, your microphone.
We're active in about 15 campuses, and we're growing very, very quickly. And keep in mind, this is not just a flash in the pan movement. We're going to become an institution to give them the power and the confidence to stand up and let their voice be heard.
I started this organization when I was 18 years old. I decided not to go to college. I didn't get in my dream school, which was the United States Military Academy at West Point. I have this idea to galvanize and motivate the future youth of this country around a core set of ideas, not just political parties or politicians. And the ideas are really America's the greatest country in the history of the world. The Constitution is the greatest political document ever written, and free enterprise is the most assured way to lift people out of poverty and create prosperity for all. Those are the three big ideas. And I think that's something that can win.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
I've never seen someone do it.
Well, it's a growing trend because people like me are facing violence, assaults. The left. Yes, the campus Antifa. I've been stormed out of restaurants. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats.
Okay, so what's your goal in all this?
There's more people that agree with me than some people would actually believe, and they come out of the woodwork when I do stuff like this. We record all of it so that we put it on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.
I want our Turning Point USA students to receive a round of applause. These are the freedom fighters of America. This is the greatest generational realignment since Woodstock. What can I do to save the country? You answer that question every single day, because you are doing the work to save this beautiful republic. You are doing something that is bigger than you.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith in my life.
Mr. Young, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Charles James Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, fighter for freedom of expression and for open debate, and a deeply believing Christian, is, for us, the ESN group, of which the AfD from Germany is part, the most worthy person to receive the Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought 2025. In a time where a fanatical wokist left is attempting to preserve its fading cultural hegemony through cancel culture, violence against dissenters, and state censorship cynically disguised as defense of democracy, Charlie Kirk has sought open dialogue and the exchange of arguments even with his most bitter opponents. He did so out of his Christian faith, but most of his arguments were based simply on common sense and humanity. He has explicitly understood his work as a contribution to a peaceful society, and he has inspired an entire generation of young people in the US and far beyond. It is deeply sad and a shame for our Western societies that Charlie Kirk would only receive the award posthumously, as he was brutally murdered by a young man agitated by the woke campus ideology in the midst of a debate with students. But having become a martyr in this way, not only for his Christian faith, but also for liberty, Charlie Kirk's legacy will live on all the more strongly. His mortal body could be killed, but not the immortal spirit that drove him. It was shocking to see that the mainstream media in Germany and across Europe not only showed no sympathy for the murdered husband and young father, but often could not hide their secret joy and claimed that he himself was somehow responsible for his death. It will remain a disgrace to the European Parliament that it refused to hold a minute of silence for him. We must realize that those who brand Charlie Kirk's Christian and conservative convictions as fascist and thereby justify his murder are not only committing a grave injustice against an exceptional human being, but are also undermining the very foundations of our Western civilization. For this civilization is unthinkable without Christianity, the Enlightenment, freedom, and the peaceful resolution of differences of opinion. The European Parliament now has the opportunity to send a strong signal by awarding the Sakharov Prize to Charlie Kirk. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Jongen. Now we come to the sixth nomination, and that is Mr. Andrzej Poczobut, nominated by the EPP and the ECR groups. I understand that first we will hear Mr. Łukasz Kohut for 2.5 minutes and then a video, and then we have Małgorzata Gosiewska also with video. Łukasz.
Andrzej Poczobut, a true warrior of media freedom, democratic Belarus and minority rights in Belarus. Pro-European, anti-Soviet, seeker of truth. Stubborn, idealistic activist, journalist and foreign correspondent, has been unlawfully imprisoned and stands as a symbol of more than 1,500 prisoners under the Lukashenko regime. He was sentenced to 8 years in a penal colony for defending freedom of speech and the rights of minorities. He criticized injustice and exposed the full extent of authoritarian evil. For his loyalty to his ideals, he paid a high price: arrests, trials, and harassment. Since 2021, prison has become his home, far from his wife and children. He could have chosen silence and emigration, but he chose the truth. His choices also show how, even in darkness, loyalty to the values we share in the European Union can shine brightly. Freedom and dignity are never guaranteed. Holding on to one's convictions is stronger than violence. Even behind bars, a person can remain free. The Lukashenko regime accused him of inciting hatred and pushing for sanctions against Belarus. In February 2023, a court sentenced him to 8 years in prison. He is being held in solitary confinement and deprived of proper medical care. Today, when we speak of Poczobut, we speak of extraordinary strength and courage, which is not granted to everyone. There are billions of people in the world, bad, good, and truly exceptional. Andrzej Poczobut belongs to this third group. But no award can give back the years he has spent in prison, away from his family and friends, and the everyday happy moments that pass forever. Yet there is an award that can inspire whole generations to do not what is convenient, but what is right. The Sakharov Prize, like no other, emphasizes that freedom knows no limits. Even a cold cell, one can remain faithful to their ideals. Andrzej Poczobut embodies this truth. He, as a symbol of fights for the freedom of all Belarusians, their freedom to think what they want to think, and their freedom to choose their own future on their own. Europe's security depends on the situation in Ukraine and Belarus. Situation in Belarus depends on freedom of Andrzej Poczobut. We should award the Sakharov Prize to Poczobut not only to a great hero, but to send the signal to dictators that Europe's security and Europe's future to brave ideas of Andrzej Poczobut and people like him. Long live Europe, long live independent Belarus. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And now Małgorzata Gosiewska, please.
Dziękuję, ale prosiłam, żeby w pierwszej kolejności film.
Thank you, but I wanted to have a film first.
Andrzej Poczobut is a Polish-Belarusian journalist and social activist, a critic of Alexander Lukashenko's authoritarian regime and a political prisoner. He has been fighting for freedom of speech and civil rights in Belarus for years. He has won numerous awards, including the Grand Press Award and the Sergio Vieira de Mello Prize. He has repeatedly described the lawlessness of Lukashenko's regime. Despite ongoing repression and arrests, he has consistently defended freedom of speech, human rights, and the equal treatment of minorities. In 2011, he was tried for articles that criticised the country's dictator. In March 2021, he was arrested again. In 2023, he was sentenced to 8 years in a maximum security prison. He is currently interned in Novopolotsk, one of the harshest penal colonies in Belarus. Amnesty International and other humanitarian organizations have recognized him as a prisoner of conscience, and Reporters Without Borders has repeatedly demanded his release. Isolated, cut off from the world, deprived of contact with his family and health care despite chronic illness, subjected to physical and psychological torture, Andrzej Poczobut remains true to his values of freedom, truth, and solidarity. He is a symbol of independent journalism and civic courage. His life story is a testament to the fight for fundamental human rights in the face of authoritarianism, and an example of solidarity with those whose voices are silenced. We demand his release.
Dziękuję przede wszystkim dziennikarzom.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the journalist of Belsat TV, independent journalists who made this material, this film happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Sakharov's Prize is for the freedom of speech, rule of law and fighting for civil rights. Andrzej Poczobut, with his life, proved to be worthy of this prize, dedicating his life to such values. He's a true symbol of the fight fought by Belarusians for fundamental rights. He's an unyielding hero. He might have left Belarus before he was arrested. He never chose this way. He often was invited to sign admitting to his imaginary faults, but he never did so. He's unbroken and unyielding. His life is in your hands, colleagues. We fight for Sakharov's Prize for an outstanding personage, but we also fight for his life. Ladies and gentlemen, Belarusian prison is nothing like the prison that we might imagine. This is like the contemporary Soviet lager, and let us remember about it. His life is in your hands. Sakharov Prize to Andrzej Poczobut. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we continue, I welcome the first colleagues from the Batch Committee who were planning to start a joint meeting with AFED at 3:30. I see Director General Kortman is already with us. Look, we had some, how could I say, minor technical issues. That's why we're running slightly late. So enjoy the next 25 minutes of your life. You really have time now to enjoy the presentations. I'm very sorry about this. We come to our 8th and final nominee, and these are the Serbian students nominated by the Renew Europe group. I first give the floor to Helmut Brandstetter, and then this will be followed by a video. Helmut, bitte.
Thank you, Chair. Those Serbian students inspire. They inspire young people and not so young people. I have nothing but admiration for those young people who demand a free and democratic Serbia that aligns with the European Union's core values of respect, of human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, and the rule of law. Those Serbian students inspire us others in the Balkan and the rest of the EU neighborhood to stand up for their rights, and also young people all over the EU to see how courageous these young people are who live in an authoritarian society. This state, Serbia, confronts these young people with violence and media smear campaigns. Serbian students risk their safety and futures for the sake of free and democratic Serbia, sometimes also the safety of their families. They fight really for a better Europe. They fight against corruption that kills people, against detonating rule of law that imprisons political opponents and pardons thugs. While these young people fight for the values that are enshrined in the EU treaties, Serbian government is conducting military training with China and cozying up to Russia. This shows who stands for Europe and who is against it. We need people who believe in Europe and who fight for Europe.
Hvala vam na tome što su danas mogli da se vide samo osmesi. Nigde nije bilo svađa i sukoba. Nije bilo topovskih udara. Nije bilo nigde nikakvih problema.
Kako su studenti rekli, ovo nije sprint, ovo je maraton.
Pa nada je da će se nešto ipak promeniti, da posle 30 godina ćemo moći da živimo zaista u onom društvu za koje se borimo još od 90-ih.
Ovde smo da svom snagom i silinom podržimo studente i sve ono što oni...
We put our personal ideologies aside because what we're doing here is bigger than all of that.
Znači mnogo smo toga prošli, vidjeli ste i sami šta se sve dešavalo i stvarno sad ne smemo da stanemo, moramo i dalje da pumpamo.
We can see right now on the streets that what we're doing is very important, that people agree with us and that they think that what we're doing is actually the right thing.
Please.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, what we've seen on this video is just the tip of the iceberg. We wanted to actually include statements from students on the most recent developments in Serbia, but most of them declined because of fear for retribution by the government. Anyone that exposes himself or just voices support for protests which only require accountability, anti-corruption, justice, and some semblance of rule of law are smeared, attacked, beaten, detained, risk losing a job. But still, almost every day in most large cities and towns in Serbia, they are showing enormous courage on the streets and doing so in large, very large numbers, after 11 months. Despite violence, despite increased repression and the Serbian government becoming more and more like Belarusian. The peaceful protesters are having 16 minutes of silence for 16 people dead because of corruption, while the government uses sound cannon and tear gas on them. The protesters are detained in police custody while those responsible for the tragedy roam free. The government is cynically playing surrealist games by inventing their own protesters named Chaci, by bringing paid thugs to be mixed up with the police to beat the protesters, by firing and reducing wages for professors and teachers. The government party officials are threatening with death on propaganda TV channels while detained students are forced to hunger strikes for justice to be released from prison. Serbian people are actually showing the whole Europe what are the values and how to demand them courageously and consistently, despite all odds and difficulty. Our nomination of Serbian students for this prize is a way of paying tribute, of recognizing, of issuing support of their fight for a better future, embodying the Sakharov spirit in fighting for freedom and for giving us hope when the situation seems hopeless. Let's show them that we also did not lose hope in the European values. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, dear colleagues. We've now not only seen but also heard all of today's presentations on inspiring and courageous candidates. I now pass the floor to our chair of the Droit Subcommittee, Munir Saturi, who has the impossible task to run us through the exchange of views and conclude this meeting at 3:30. So, Munir, I don't know how you're going to do it, but we believe in your leadership. The floor is yours.
Ça ne dépend pas que de moi, ça dépendra du nombre d'intervenants.
Well, this won't depend on me or depend on the number of speakers. Well, before me, I only saw one speaker. I'd like to get back to what you said, Mr. McAllister. The Sakharov Prize is a prize for freedom. And frankly, knowing that a nominee has expressed, directly or indirectly, through family or through representatives, that they wish not to be nominated, well, then I don't want to open that discussion today, but I think for the future we need to revisit the rules so that if a nominee expresses directly or through their family or through their lawyer a wish not to be nominated, then we need rules that make that nomination full. The Sakharov Prize is the incarnation of a number of things, including freedom. And if someone has expressed their non-consent with being nominated, then that's a problem for me. It may be difficult to have consent, but if someone has refused consent, then it becomes problematic. I now give the floor to Nathalie Loiseau. Thank you, Chair. The place of a writer is never in prison, and Boualem Sansal does not belong in the Algerian prisons. He's not a prisoner. He is a hostage, like Christophe Glaise, the French journalist, who is also being jailed in Algeria. I myself had thought about nominating Boualem Sansal for the Sakharov Prize. My group did not take up this proposal. I am in permanent contact with Boualem Sansal's lawyer and with his closest family. As you said, Mr. Chair, the minimum of respect that we owe Boualem Sansal is to comply with his wishes, and he has sent a very clear message that he does not wish to be nominated for the Sakharov Prize in the conditions in which he is currently being nominated. So the question I put to the colleagues is, what is our aim here? Should we serve Boualem Sansal, or should we make him serve us? I would not like to see Boualem Sansal become our lackey here in this room. Thank you. Thank you, colleague. Mr. Scherber is next.
Good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very happy that among so many candidates we have journalists, fighters for freedom. But especially let me give my respect to Andrzej Poczobut, who is a journalist, who is a political prisoner, who is a symbol of unwavering courage and moral integrity and journalistic independence. Andrzej Poczobut, he is both Belarusian and Polish. He is in Lukashenko's prison for the last 5 years. As my Polish colleague already said, we are not fighting for a Sakharov Prize for Andrzej. We are also fighting for his life, because we know that his conditions in a Belarusian regime prison are very difficult. So let me put your attention and let me put your interest in this candidature. We in Poland many times we speak in a different views, but together you can see the representatives of EPP and representatives of EKR speaking with one voice. We ask you for Sakharov Prize for Andrzej Poczobut. Nagroda Sakharowa dla Andrzeja.
Sakharov Prize to Andrzej Poczobut.
Vous avez respecté la minute.
Thank you, and thank you for respecting the 1 minute, 30 seconds allocated to you. Now the floor goes to Mr. Mariani. Chair. I was looking at an article from Le Figaro 5 days ago, exactly, where the members of the committee supporting Boualem Sansal spoke, and they said that nobody had been able to receive a message directly from the person in question. I see this article where his second daughter explained that she had no further messages or news. She'd not heard from Boualem Sansal since he was jailed. So we have his lawyer and his editor who are saying that he does not want this nomination. But in reality, he has not been able to express any wishes. As the committee says, you are free to reject this nomination. That's what the Algerian regime expects. And French policy aims to sweep this under the carpet, you would be serving their interests. That's a political choice. We decided to present this nomination because at the present time, no members of his family have really received any messages. I'm trying to find the source here, the Figaro article. Not even his wife, given the pressure, is in a position to express herself. So you have decided to reject the nomination because it has been presented by the Patriots group. We maintain this nomination because when a writer like Boualem Sansal is imprisoned, I think we should all rally to defend that nomination. I hope he will be released soon, and then we will hear the end of that story. Mr. Mariani, you are experienced enough to be aware of the procedures here. Nobody is removing Mr. Boualem Sansal's nomination here. It has been duly presented. Now, what we're talking about is the future and the rules for the prize, because the current rules do not allow for rejecting a nomination like this. I've said this previous opportunities. I'm not going to draw up a hierarchy of who's entitled to the prize. We have people who are committed, who sometimes risk their own lives, and Mr. Sansal is competing with them. But for the future, we're reflecting now, and I hope that we can plug this gap in our rules so that we have explicit consent for nominations. But this is not what's at stake this year or for the current edition of the rules. It doesn't concern Mr. Sansal or the others, and the outcome will be known at the end of the procedure when we know who the winner is, and you're well aware and familiar with that process. Madam Sorella, you have a minute and a half. I have no further speakers, and I'll close the speakers list. Madam Sorella. Thank you. I'll be very brief. I am very close to Boualem Sansal, and I confirm that his wife sees him regularly. She has passed on his message, and we should respect Boualem Sansal's wishes. In any case, if he were to receive the prize in the conditions in which it has been presented, he will not attend, he will not send his wife or anybody else to receive the Sakharov Prize. But I simply hope that for coming years, if the situation changes, that he can be nominated again. But at the current state of things, I would stress that Boualem Sansal has refused being presented as a candidate by the Patriots for Europe group. Thank you.
No, Mr. Mariani.
Mr. Mariani, you are not going to be given the floor. You have taken the floor twice, and we will stop there. Would David McAllister like to come in again, or shall I wrap up? Okay. Thank you for all the nominations presented. Now, more than ever, in recent history, the universality of human rights and our most fundamental principles are called into question. In the current global context, the EU should have the courage to play a leading role in defending universal rights throughout the world in partnership with all those who defend these rights. In the context, the Sakharov Prize is unique. It reaffirms our attachment to these rights. It celebrates the courage and determination of human rights defenders all over the world, and it allows us to support them and bring visibility to the causes they defend. Thanks to their work and often taking the greatest risk for themselves and their closest family members in difficult situations. Thank you for presenting these nominations. We will now be considering them. We will follow due process, and we will get back to you very briefly. And I will give the floor then to Mr. McAllister. We'll conclude.
Thank you. On behalf of the AFET members, I would like to thank our Deva and to our colleagues. I would like to thank, in particular, Munir and Hildegard for co-chairing this session. Before closing our meeting, I wish to recall the timing of the rest of the procedure. The vote on the shortlist of the three candidates is set for Thursday, the 16th of October in the morning at a joint AFET-Deva meeting in camera. The Conference of Presidents will vote on the laureates on the 23rd of October. The laureates will be invited to an exchange of views at a joint AFET-Deva meeting to be held in Strasbourg on Monday, the 15th of December in the evening, with the award ceremony scheduled in plenary the next day on the 16th.